What's going on, Bulls Nation? And welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast, presented to you by PointsBet. Don't forget that promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I'm Matt. That's Big Dave. We're hanging out here at our downtown studios in the West Loop, CHGO. Will has safely made it to Brazil. Happy for him. He's here tuning in. And we are so pleased to welcome in, making a CHGO debut, three-time NBA champion with the Chicago Bulls, 15 years and counting as a Bulls analyst, both in the studio and on your Bulls television broadcast, doing color commentary with the great Neil Funk, now with our pal Adam Amin, and recently added to that resume, the host of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast.
Yes.
Bulls Nation, give it up for the one, the only, Stacey King! Hey. What up, Stace?
What up, though? How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. Thrilled to have you here. Follow Stacy on Twitter, by the way, at Stacy21King, if you aren't already for some reason. Stace, we're so excited to talk to you about all kinds of stuff, but let's start with the Bulls season that we all just watched together and that you called along with Adam. Is there a favorite moment or a favorite game that sticks out to you through this crazy roller coaster of a season that started so hot and then kind of faded down the stretch? Favorite moment or a favorite game?
I'd probably say, the stretch that DeMar DeRozan went on, man. I mean, any one of those particular games where he was putting up 35 plus, we haven't seen that type of production since Michael Jordan. He's the only one that did it in a Bulls uniform. And I thought that was a magical moment. So it's really not any in particular game. It's just a stretch of games where I saw an individual do something that, I witnessed in my time playing with the greatest player ever. Probably thought I'd never see it again.
Yeah. Stacy, was there anybody that you saw this season that you were just really surprised at their kind of rise, for the Bulls this year? Because a couple of them, come to mind, like Io or, DeMar, like you mentioned in the run that he was on. Was there anybody, though, that just caught your eye? You were like, damn.
I pretty much say it was DeMar. I mean, I knew DeMar was a great player, former, five-time All-Star. I've always had the utmost respect for him, the way he carries himself, the way he plays the game the right way. And then, seeing him in San Antonio the year before where his role was completely different on a younger team. He was more of a mentor. He had a career high in assists. He was doing other things besides scoring. And then when we got him, I knew we were getting a very good player, someone to take some pressure off Zach, but the way he played for us last year, I wasn't expecting that. I expected a very good player, but not the MVP type of player he ended up being and for the Bulls.
So, Stacy, we obviously kind of, I don't think anybody really assumed that DeMar would be as good as he was. There was a lot of debate about his contract when he first signed. And now we're heading into a summer where Zach LaVine is a free agent. There's been a lot of news, whether it's like TMZ or LeVar Ball going to talk to Cap on his podcast. What's your take on Zach's free agency? You think he's worth the max? You think he's staying? What's sort of your thought there?
It's not where he's worth the max or not. I mean, the kid is a two-time All-Star Olympian. He's the best player on the Bulls roster. He's a dynamic player in this league. I mean, you don't find people that can average 25 or 26 points a game and does the things that he does. I know people are looking at, this is the same guy that came back from an ACL tear and tore it up. So I'm not worried about a scope. I think people look at his defense and they say, well, he's not a great defensive player, but he has the ability to be a good defensive player. And if he stays here with the Bulls, that's something you can work on, but 27 points ain't walking through that door, if he leaves for free agency. And I know the Bulls know that. I know Arturas and Mark and JJ Polk in the front office of the Bulls recognize and respect Zach's talent. They're going to pay him the max. They've already made it very clear to everyone out there that they're going to pay him the max. And, this is what free agency is. It allows people to go out and get wined and dine like you're in high school. You get college recruiters come in and you go on your 5 visits. Players at the pro level don't get that until they get into the free agency. You kind of forget what that felt like, feeling like what, everybody wants you. like you did in high school. So free agencies like that for NBA players. I think at the end of the day, Zach has to understand it's like, hey, look, you know what? The Bulls, I'm going to get the max playing with the Bulls. I'll leave $40-50 million on the table if I was to walk. But where are you going to walk to? That's the whole thing. The Bulls this is your first time in the playoffs in 8 years. This is the first time you've been on a winning team in your career. And you're building something special here. You can see AK and those guys are building something special here. You finally got guys around you that can help elevate your game to another level. And think about this, guys, and I was saying this the other day on my podcast. It's like, where are you going to go that a coach is going to give you the green light? You can shoot 27, 30 times a game. You could come past half court, shoot a step back three and not get taken out the game. Not too many places going to allow you to do that. And that's what really, when I tell people and they say, you think Zach's going to leave? You ain't going to be doing that with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in LA. And you're going to have to play defense. And there's pressure playing with those guys because, as you know, even though the Lakers are not in the playoffs, they're constantly being talked about. They're being talked about when other teams are playing well and doing good things, and you're still talking about the Lakers. So that just shows you what kind of pressure that must be. LeBron's used to it. Anthony Davis is probably not used to it, and he probably affected him a little bit. And Zach is going to feel that same pressure if he was to go to LA. You're under a microscope, and it'll never be LeBron's fault. Look what they did to Westbrook. Westbrook is an MVP, Hall of Fame player. They made him look like a buster out there. It was his fault. He took 2 bad shots. He can't shoot. They're ready to run him out with pitchforks and everything. So if they're doing that to Westbrook, imagine what they'll do to anybody else who comes out there who doesn't produce like they think they should.
Stace, there's been this thing that's been said by a lot of people over the last week or so as we get closer to Zach and everybody else's free agency in the NBA this summer. LeVar was one person to say it, but it's also been coming out from other places that there's this feeling that there may be some animosity between Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan because, as we just discussed, DeMar DeRozan arrived and in a lot of ways sort of made this his team in that he came up in big moments. He took over a lot of fourth quarters, and with Zach also dealing with his injury, it was certainly DeMar carrying them down the stretch. I don't believe any of that. From what we heard and what we've witnessed, Zach was sick of losing, was finally happy to be playing on a winning team this season, and DeMar was a big reason for that. To me, it seemed like Zach was relieved that DeMar arrived and got him some help. The Bulls could have signed Zach to an extension last offseason and didn't, and instead, it seemed to be with his blessing, went out and spent money on getting him help, and that includes very much DeMar DeRozan. What is your take on these rumors flying around that Zach maybe wants out because now it's DeMar who's the guy in Chicago?
Well, look, I'm around these guys all the time. They all get along. This is a very close-knit group. They get along. They pull for one another. It's just like anything. You guys are very good at what you do. Okay, you guys, you're not one of these TMZ type, National Enquirer things that get clickbait. Zach LaVine's not happy with DeMar DeRozan. Everybody's clicking on and subscribing to that channel, and they have no proof whatsoever that there's a beef going on between the two. Okay, so I'm gonna put that to rest. There's no beef going on between Zach and DeMar. DeMar has made it very clear this is Zach's team. Okay, and you got to remember, DeMar DeRozan is one of the elite players in this league before he came to the Bulls. Take away that San Antonio year. When he was in Toronto, he was one of the best, 2 guards in the league. And so that's not going to change. He came in this league as a teenager. This guy's been around a long time. He's put up a lot of numbers. He changed the culture in Toronto with Kyle Lowry. And, they did some special things there. So as far as what other people are saying, it's just so funny reading all the intel on the internet. All these people have all this insight, and they know nothing about Chicago Bulls basketball anyway. You got to be in this city anyway to be reporting about anything that has to do with the Bulls, the White Sox, the Cubs. You have to live here to even be qualified to talk. Other than hearsay, oh, I heard from this man sitting next to this man sitting next to this man sitting next to that man. All that stuff. It's trash. Here's Zach in a nutshell. As I said before, guys, 8 years, you never won. You never had a winning season. You got tired of hearing everybody saying that Zach's not a winning player. Zach puts up empty calories. Now you got Lonzo Ball, you got Caruso, you got Vooch, you got DeMar DeRozan. The front office has built him and put players around him to be productive, to do the things he can do. And if you remember the year before he came, before DeMar and all these guys came, Zach had to do everything. Okay. And, we won 22 games. He was the assist man. He had to score. Fourth quarter, he had to hit big shots. He was exhausted by game 45. So now you got a guy on the other side of him in DeMar DeRozan that can take pressure off him. You got Vooch that can take pressure off him. These are two all-star players. And as you know, in this league, people talk about, well, you got to have 3 all-stars to win and, or to even compete for a championship. The Bulls have put a team together where you have that now. Maybe it's not ideal. Maybe you say, oh, I'd like to have, Anthony Davis. Unfortunately, that doesn't work that way. Bulls did a great job of getting Vooch at the trade deadline the year before. And now you bring in, Lonzo Ball. Had Lonzo Ball not got hurt, and I keep telling people this all the time, that really hurt the Bulls in the second half, not having Lonzo Ball. You lose your second leading rebounder at the guard position. You lose your second. He was leading the team in block shots, I think, before he went out. And you lose the guy who controls the pace and gets everybody involved. And that's where they really missed him, because now you got to put back in isolation play. Now you got to put DeMar in isolation plays all the time. And the offense didn't really have the flow that it had when Noah was there, because you had good ball movement. The ball was popping around on the horn, and guys were getting easier shots.
Yeah, Stacy, one player that has been polarizing, I think, for the Bulls this year has been Nikola Vucevic. Bulls fans either loving him or they're hating him. Matt and I have definitely been on the defensive for Vooch pretty much all season long.
Vooch stands.
We just don't understand what people are talking about or getting into when they're talking about Vooch, man. It's crazy. You don't find that kind of skill and talent just out there on trees. Like you said, Stacy, 27 points, ain't walking through that door. Well, the dude that can get you 17, 11, and 4 ain't walk through that door either. You know what I'm saying? That's a bad year, you know what I'm saying, for him, 17 and 11. But
No.
But what is your take on Vooch and how he played this season? Because I know you were definitely a proponent of him, playing more inside and not outside, and starting from there and working his way towards the outside, to get his shots. But what was your assessment on Vooch this year?
I love Vooch. Vooch is a multifaceted, talented player. He can score inside. He can score outside. He's a very good passer. He's a poor man's Jokic, per se. And I'm not saying he's as good as Jokic, but I'm saying he does kind of the same things Jokic does. Jokic plays a little bit more inside than Vooch does. But, if you go back to remember Vooch in Orlando, Vooch was one of the best low-post big men in the league. I mean, he dominated. I remember we played him many times. He dominated us in the post. So I got kind of spoiled with that Vooch. So when we got him, I was happy that we got him, because, it was one of those situations where we got it back to the basket. When shot clock's winding down, we need to get a shot. He can go get us a bucket or double team to find an open shooter. And as you know, the NBA now has converted bigs to shooting, and I think Vooch has really worked on his outside game. He's really worked on being in this new NBA center where you're stretch five. The day of the post-up centers, other than Embiid and Jokic, are like two of the only back-to-the-basket guys, but they also like to play on the floor. But you watch Embiid, when it's time to get a bucket, he going inside. He going to his bread and butter. And as Shaq would say, it's barbecue chicken. As I would say, it's free cheese.
Well, Stacy, you talked kind of about Vooch and his adjustment to the Bulls from Orlando and how things kind of changed from him. I think, it's something that he mentioned in his postseason exit interviews. It's something that I think Kobe struggled with a little bit earlier on this year in terms of, going from heavy starters minutes to now being that spark plug off the bench. Just as a player in your career, how important is it to understand and know what your role is going to be on a night-to-night basis? And how does not knowing that affect your play?
Well, it's very important. I mean, especially when your goal is to win a championship. Everybody can't be a scorer. Everybody can't come out and drop 25 a night. That's what separates the championship caliber teams to the teams that get to the first round and lose. Because on a championship team, listen, I came from the University of Oklahoma, average almost 30 points a game my senior year. As soon as they drafted me, they told me we didn't draft you to score. And then I asked them, why the hell did you draft me? So they said we draft you for rebounding and defense, and your ability to get out on the pick and rolls and trap the pick and roll, your athleticism. And I was kind of disappointed, but I want to win at the end of the day. I want to win championships. I lost a championship in college, and I know how that felt. And now I'm getting put on a team with at that time, he was the best NBA player. He wasn't considered the greatest yet, Michael Jordan. And Scotty was just, going into his role. And then you had a young Horace Grant, and then, BJ was there with him, Paxson. We had a great mix of young and veteran players. And Phil would tell us, like, hey, this is your role. You need to play this role to the best of your ability in order for us to win. And it was swallow at first, man, because I'm used to being a stud. I mean, every level from little league up to, high school to college, I've always been the man. And it's an ego, it crushes your ego a little bit when the coach tells you can't do what you've been doing your whole life, but we need you in this role. And if you want to win, guys, you are willing to accept that role, because if we weren't winning championships and I'd have been on a bad team, like the Clippers or the trade me, I don't want to be in this role on a bad team. I don't mind being, as long as we're winning, as long as we getting that gold ball and we getting parades in Chicago, I'll play that role to the fullest. And I think with Kobe, you got to figure out what kind of player Kobe is. I already figured it out. Kobe's instant offense. He's not a point guard. He's a combo guard. And there's a big difference. He can play point guard and stretch it, but he's much more of a scorer. He's a guy that you want him coming off screens, single, double screens, catch and shoot, a la Ben Gordon. He's a bigger Ben Gordon. He does a lot of things different than Ben Gordon, because I think he has the ability to be a very good two-way player because he gives you effort defensively. So I think he has the ability where Ben was a very good scorer and, not a very good defensive player. But Kobe has the ability with his size to be able to be a very good two-way player, give you instant offense, coming off the bench. And kind of like, when you look at Jamal Crawford and guys that have played that six-man role, they were all starters. And then they had to, they converted, and those guys are probably going to be gamers being six-man. So nothing wrong with being a six-man, because I always tell people always say, everybody want to be Batman. Few people want to be Robin, but they will take that role. But nobody want to be Alfred, the third guy. Ain't nothing wrong with Alfred, baby, long as you in the fight.
Some teams make it work with the three alphas kind of scenario, Batman, Robin, and Alfred. Some teams don't, but,
This dude.
Yes.
We got more coming your way with our man Stacey King. Here's, speaking of championship parades that Stacey's hoping for, he was a part of several back in the day. We're going to talk about Stacey's career coming up in just a minute. But first, mention it at the top of the show. Today's episode brought to y'all by PointsBet. Don't forget that CHGO promo code when you sign up to get those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. And that's not all. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you get a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our amazing content here, including these player grades on our website that Will Gottlieb has been doing for us. You even get a free CHGO t-shirt, which we know Stacey would look fly as hell in a CHGO t-shirt. We should probably just send him one as a thank you for coming on the show.
Don't turn nothing down with his collar.
That's 2,000 free bets, free CHGO membership.
I told you.
Free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making a $50 or more first-time deposit. Plus, we've had a lot of blowouts in these NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
You know what's a way to make blowouts more fun?
What's that, man?
Having a little money on them. Same-game parlays.
He is correct.
How about live same-game parlays only available from PointsBet? You can boost those, too. Did you know that, Dave?
I did not.
Watch live, parlay live, boost live with PointsBet. And online sign-up now available from your phone. Start to finish, create an account, $50 deposit, CHGO membership, have some fun watching these conference finals games. Boom. Once you start, you don't just bet. What do you do, Big Dave?
You live your bet life.
Shit easy. All right, y'all. We're talking with Stacey King, Stacey 21 King on Twitter for all this man's great Bulls positive vibes. Going back in the day, like I was trying to convince a lot of Bulls fans, Stacey, that while the first round exit of the playoffs is disappointing, it's part of the process. It's part of the journey. You got to take your licks before you become champions. And that got me thinking back to, of course, y'all's struggle and y'all's journey to get past the Pistons. You know, your rookie year was 89-90, the last and final year that y'all lost to the Pistons, Game 7 of the conference finals. And I was just curious if there were one particular Bad Boy Piston that you hated the very, very most. Isaiah, Sally, Mahorn, which one just really, really irked you?
Oh, come on, man. That's Bill Laimbeer. I couldn't stand him. He was dirty. He was a dirty dude, man. And but listen, he's a guy, I kind of liken him to Grayson Allen. As a matter of fact, I think Grayson Allen might be his son. They look just alike.
Wow. Now Stacy, like, I think your first game with the Bulls, like you said, was like January, February, like 1990, with them. When they played the Pistons, I think you got ejected in like your first game when they played the Pistons because you put somebody on their behind. And everybody here loved you for it because that hadn't happened since like Charles Oakley had been here.
Well, it was Scott Hastings, and I remember it was my rookie year, and I didn't really know how big the rivalry was, because at Oklahoma I was teammates with Harvey Grant, which is Grant's twin brother. So we used to watch the Bulls on WGN all the time, and I remember the one fight they got in at the old Chicago Stadium when Jawan Oldham, got into the Pistons, and I remember Rick Mahorn, Bodham, and Johnny Bach, the great late Bach, on the table. And I remember that big fight. And so then I'm like, wow, man, they don't like each other, And then, Harvey would tell me that's a bit of rivalry, yada, yada. So then when I finally I saw how bitter it was. I saw how physical it was. Guys were doing dirty stuff, punching you when the ref wasn't looking, doing all kinds to try to take you out of the game. So Scott Hastings really, Scott's a great guy now. Scott came over, I think, from Denver. And he kind of, came into the Pistons. They were championship, and he was part of that second championship team. But he wasn't drafted there. He wasn't a guy that was in that, bad boy mentality. So he was trying to like impress his teammates by being physical, doing some stuff. So he thought I was the one. He thought I was the one gonna try. And so I was boxing him out, and he was going for a rebound, and he chucked me in the back of the head with an elbow. And immediately I kind of blacked out. It wasn't even about the Pistons and the Bulls rivalry at that point. It was more of like, oh, you trying to punk me. Oh, this ain't happening, bro. You just because my name is Stacy, don't think there's anything soft about me. So I immediately tried to give him a two-piece and with no biscuit and so I was now dead in the middle of the Pistons and the Bulls rivalry. I got my ticket to get in the VIP club, and the fans love me for that, and the Pistons fans hated me for it.
So you mentioned who you didn't like, Grayson Sr. I want to know who are you closest to on those Bulls teams? Like, who are you playing one-on-one with after practice? Who are you playing cards with? Who are some of your closest friends on those teams?
You know what? We're all close. We still to this day talk. I mean, I just got off the phone with Scott Williams a couple days ago. TJ days ago. Of course, I see Pippen when he's in town. I see Michael when I go to Charlotte. That's a close team, man. When you're with the team that's winning championships, you're with that team 9 months out of the year, and you become family. Those become your brothers. We have fights in practice. We get at each other in practice, but when we leave practice, we're as one. We're united, and we fight for each other. That's how it is, and we're all close. That's a fraternity, man. The NBA in itself is a fraternity. It doesn't matter what year you played. NBA is a fraternity, and everybody, I can go back and talk to guys like Bob Cousy. I can talk to Bill Russell, guys like that who are way before me. And, eternity, they'll sit down and talk to you and gracious with their time. and all the younger players that I came up with were all close and tight. And it's just great to see these guys. I'm glad everybody's healthy. All the guys are doing their own thing. That team is very special. Everybody on that team, if you think about it, you go down, look at those rosters on those championship teams, especially the first one. All those guys off that first team is doing something basketball related, or they are doing very well in life in general. And that's a mark of the character of that team and basically the organization, because we all kind of grew up in the organization.
Stace, obviously Bulls fans and NBA fans in general loved watching The Last Dance a couple of years ago because it came at a time when, because of the pandemic, there were no live sports for us sports fans to watch, and it was a great gift in that way. It also, I think, maybe opened up a few different cans of worms in rehashing out everybody's sides of the same story. And they got this part wrong, or this part didn't need to be in there. You mentioned that you didn't particularly love the way that they portrayed Scottie in that documentary. Do you think that camaraderie and that brotherhood and that bond that you were just talking about of a championship team that was together through all of those battles and wars, did that documentary damage any of that camaraderie, or was it just water under the bridge? People took issue with a few things, but it wasn't something harsh enough to break those bonds that you guys have.
Well, I think Scottie and Michael's relationship is tarnished. I don't think my relationship with Scottie is not tarnished. My relationship with anybody else off that team is not tarnished. Listen, brothers get into it. You have family, you have brothers, and you have family issues that happen. You don't ever stop being family. You don't ever stop being brothers. You could be mad at your brother, not talk to him for 10 years. But whenever your brother needs you, you're there. And it's one of those situations. Of course, we like to handle that, behind the scenes. I'm sure Scottie and somewhat may have a little bit of regret, because, Michael is a guy that, he gets all the credit, because he's the greatest player to ever played. But we were part of something special. Scottie was part of 6. He was part of something special 6 times, and he was a big reason, why the Bulls are winning. I always say, Michael, as great as he is, and Scottie, as great as he was, they both needed each other to maximize winning. Could Michael win without Scottie? Yeah, but I don't think he wins 6. Maybe 1 or 2. Does Scottie win without Michael? He came pretty close. If it wasn't for Hugh Holland's call in New York, he might have won 1. But I don't think he wins 6. Okay, so let's just be real. Both of those guys needed each other, and they helped each other maximize their abilities. Michael gets a lot of the credit, and everybody knows that. But, at the end of the day, we all prospered from winning. At the end of the day, we all have to make sacrifices. Everybody had to make sacrifices for that team to win. Me and BJ, college All-Americans, big time players, we had to make sacrifices in our game to fit in to help the team win. Horace Grant had to make sacrifices. Scott Williams, Will Perdue, John Paxson, Bill Cartwright. Everybody had to make sacrifices for that team to be successful. And even in that second three-peat, guys had to make sacrifices. The one thing I wish out of that whole thing, guys, is, forget about the Michael and Scottie thing, because that's what people talk about. My biggest takeaway from is the way they portrayed Jerry Krause. That's the big thing that I didn't like about the Last Dance is, okay, listen, how much more rocks do we need to throw at the guy? Okay, at the end of the day, that guy is one of the greatest NBA general managers of all time. If his name was Jerry West, they would have a trophy named. As a matter of fact, the NBA trophy would be named after him because of what he's done. Jerry's on the logo. They're not going to put Jerry Krause on the logo, but they would have put him on a trophy. And here's a guy that took 2 different teams to 3 titles within 8 years apart. I mean, 6 out of 8 years they won a title with 2 different teams. How many teams can say that? And better yet, if MJ doesn't go chase curveballs for the Birmingham Barons, them 2 titles that Houston won is in Chicago. It would have been 8 straight. Believe that. No cap. Believe that.
Wow. But Stacy, you know what? I want to go back even further than that, because honestly, I don't think a lot of people know, and you touched on it for a second, but I don't think a lot of people know how truly dominant you were in college. Like, you were really like a 27-12 dude. You know what I'm saying, for that team in Oklahoma. And you being a left-hander who actually could dominate in the paint but also had a nice touch, you know what I'm saying, also as well. Like, you were rare. And that team you had was mean. Like, you mentioned Harvey, but you also had Mookie Blaylock running point. Like, y'all were a beast. And I say all that to say, I still don't know how y'all lost to Kansas, man. I still don't understand how that happened, man. Could you talk about that for a second? Because Danny Manning just had the game of his life and led to him getting drafted like super high in the NBA after that performance.
Dave, first of all, I just want to tell you, thank you for bringing up old memories. Now I'm gonna have to go hit some Fireball whiskey now because I'm trying to get over that. You brought it back to my attention. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Well, you're not drinking the digits,
But
Stacy?
but on the real though, listen. Yeah, nah, I ain't the digits. Hey, but on the real, Dave. That was a great college team. That was one of the greatest college teams that never won, and we're considered one of the top 20 teams of all time, which is an honor. We had 3 lottery picks on that team. We had 5 JUCO All-Americans. We had 4 JUCO All-Americans couldn't even get run on that team, and so playing on that team, was awesome. I mean, he could hit you from anywhere. We had scoring all over the place. We had 5 players average double figures. Playing with Harvey made my job easier because you couldn't double me because he was a very good face-up shooter, very good guy to take pressure off me. So if you double me, he's going to give you 30. You got to pick your poison. So I always get single coverage. I think people forget, the only person able to stop me at the pro level, and I'm being serious, the best defensive player I ever played against that I said could shut Stacey King down, the scoring Stacey King, was Phil Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one. Phil Jackson.
Okay.
Phil Jackson, the only one, because he made me change my role. He made me change my role on how I played, and I went away from trying to score. But when there'd be nights though. He'd say, Stacy, we need you to give me 25. We need to get you, get you going, because be out, we need scoring. I'm like, all right, cool. And he would turn me loose. He'd let me score, and I would do it. I mean, I was on the all-rookie team my first year, and I was really cooking. Me and Horace split time, at power forward. I wasn't playing any center. I was playing strictly power forward. And you got to remember, Doug Collins drafted me. Doug was the coach that drafted me. I thought when I came here, I was going to be Doug Collins. And Doug got fired during our press conference when we came here to do our introduction to the city and to the Bulls Nation. Doug got fired, and I was disappointed in that because I really liked Doug. Doug was like my kind of coach. I was looking forward to playing with him, and he was a no nonsense guy, and so I was literally looking forward to that. But Phil Jackson doesn't get enough credit. Being a good X and O. That triangle offense was a remarkable offense. It showcased everybody's talent, everybody's skill. You had to be fundamentally sound in that offense. And then also the great assistants. Well, all these guys should be Hall of Famers. The late, great Johnny Buck, who was in charge of the defense. Ex-winner was a great college coach, but it was his triangle offense that kind of turned the league upside down. And he doesn't get enough credit as being an innovator. And I tell you how everybody talks about they hate the triangle offense. I don't want to run triangle offense because this is a 3-ball type of 3-ball game now. But every team uses some variation of Tex Winter's triangle offense. Steve Kerr runs probably about 40% of the Warriors' offense is triangle based.
And they're on their way to another title right now.
Yeah.
We've got Stacy with us for a little while longer. We also want to talk to him about his incredible broadcasting career that brings you, our fellow Bulls fans, so much joy throughout the season. But first, Big Dave, one more quick shout-out to our friends at PointsBet.
Oh, let's do this right here. Because if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us to continue to grow, that rhyme, by the way, is to download that PointsBet app and use that code CHGO when you sign up. Because you're not only getting those 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you will receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of that awesome web content, and you'll even get that free T-shirt of your choice from that CHGO locker. And if you're here in this beautiful state of Illinois and this wonderful city of Chicago where the weather is definitely fat man friendly out there, this is my kind of summer outside, you can download that PointsBet app right now and register your account from your phone from start all the way to finish. You'll be signing up with the fastest sports book, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Because once the game starts, you don't just bet. Will the thrill, what do?
You live your bet life.
Joey, one time.
Money.
Well done, sir.
Man. Big Dave, I think you are the one and only person who can take the reins from Stacy one day when it comes to average, man.
Man, listen, I bow to greatness, sir. I bow to greatness.
How are those pipes, Stace? I feel like now that the season is over, you don't get to warm
I'm working on my
them
French
up.
now before we go on to Paris. Hey. I'm working on them now. We getting ready to go to Paris in January, baby. Yeah.
Stace, I've always been curious what initially got you interested in adding this broadcasting, chapter to your career after your playing days were over, because you seem like someone who took to it so naturally. Like, I remember the first times when I was watching you in the studio doing Bulls analysis, and you were a natural. And was there someone that you watched, a retired athlete who took to broadcasting and adapted to staying around the game in that different way, who you particularly enjoyed, like a retired athlete / broadcaster who inspired you to walk that path?
Well, I think for me, I've always been on high-profile teams. At Oklahoma, we were always in front of cameras. We were always being interviewed from ESPN, NBC, CBS. So I got very comfortable at a young age in front of cameras. And then I went to school for it. I went to school for journalism at the University of Oklahoma. And, I used to write for the school newspaper. So I always thought I'd like to be write for the newspaper and the sports columns and stuff. And I thought that'd be pretty cool. And, but I remember my teacher telling me you'd be better in front of the camera. And so I used to laugh at him and not take him seriously. But yeah, he was right. And so at Oklahoma, I got introduced to being in front of the camera all the time. And my idols, there's three people that I really, really love that I kind of like, they kind of got me into it. Dick Vitale, number one. Dick Vitale has always been my favorite. He used to come do my games, and his excitement and the way he called the game, even if the game was bad, he just had you hooked. Because, he's the PTP, baby, and all these things, the Windex man and all this stuff that he would come up with. And I go, man, that's pretty cool. You don't hear that. And then the second guy would be Kevin Harlan. When I traded the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kevin Harlan, people don't remember this, but Kevin Harlan used to be the play-by-play guy for the Timberwolves. And so when I was there, I got to hear him, do games when we'd be watching video, we were watching tape, and I'd hear Kevin's voice. I'm like, man, this dude is cool. He's got a lot of energy, and the next thing you know, he's on TV. And then as far as analysts are concerned, Doug Collins to me, and I still consider Doug Collins the best analyst in the game, because the way he, not only did he play the game and he coached the game, he has a great understanding and feel for the game. And I think him being a coach, which I coached in the CBA for 5 years, that's helped me as far as being an analyst, because I have two different perspectives now. I don't look at the game just as a player, a guy who played the game. I'm also a guy who coached the game, who also, drew timeout plays coming out of timeout, situational plays to get guys off. I know how to do all that as a coach. And now you put those things together, broadcasting, it really helps you as an analyst. And so I think those three guys are really big for me. And then just my personality. If you go back, and see me, back in the day, doing Bull stuff, I was always in the camera joking, doing the Bill Cartwright voice and all this stuff that I used to do. And I was the guy that kept the team loose, with the jokes and the just playing around, keeping everybody loose, especially in these series where we had to, where it was real tight. You're playing the Knicks in a 7 game here in Chicago that we end up winning. The Pistons series, getting guys to relax and not be so uptight. That was kind of my role. And it worked. You hear anybody, ask any of the guys that tell you, man, Stacey King had us loose. We was ready to go. It was just so much fun. And it's just carried over to the broadcast. I think when I first got on TV, I was with Tom Dore and Red Kerr, 2005, and I came in, and I have to give shout out to my man Joe Riley and Tom Stacy, who used to be Comcast, and they're the golf channel. But when I was in the pre and post game, Johnny was getting up there in age, and they were like, hey, we need to see, about getting a replacement. Johnny's getting up there and yada yada, the travel's getting to him. And I think they gave Scotty the chance first. And for whatever reason didn't work out. And then Joe Riley, as they were looking for another for replacement, Joe Riley threw my name out there and said, hey, why don't you try Stacy? I think Stacy would be a natural, and I think he'd do good. I think he hit a home run out the park. And so they gave me the shot. And, I really appreciate Joe Riley stepping up for me. And because all it takes is one person to like you. And if that one person has a little power that can make things happen, that put me in position to where I'm at today. And then also, Jerry Reinsdorf, Steve Shanwald, those guys, they believed in me too. Jerry Reinsdorf has been one of the best owners I've ever played for as a player. And even now, he really takes care of his people. He allows me to be me. He doesn't put like restrictions on me to say, you can't say this, you can't do that, you can't do that. He's allowed me to be who I am, and I'm grateful for that.
Stacy, your voice is so synonymous with so many like Bulls moments. Like whatever great Bulls moment I kind of think of in my head, I can hear your call along with that moment. What's your moment though for you? The one that you probably think about the most? Like, you know what? That was incredible, and I'm glad I was there to call that one right there.
Well, before I even answer that one, because I already know which one it is, but before I answer that, I give a special shout out to Neil Funk, because if it wasn't for Neil allowing me to have those moments, that's normally the play-by-play guy's moment. But, Neil recognized my energy and my passion, and he's like, you know what? Take it, kid. Run with it, because I've been doing it for so long. And, there was no ego. Most guys have egos about that. Most play-by-play guys, shut up, I'll make that call. That's how they feel. But Neil allowed me to be me. When Neil came over from the radio side, and he basically said, hey, I want you to do what you do. I want you to call the plays, use exciting play, you do you. Don't worry about me. And if it wasn't for Neil Funk, allowing me to be me, I probably wouldn't have been. I would have found a way to be me, but I probably wouldn't have all these so-called big time calls. I think the biggest one for me was the Derrick Rose on Dragic in Phoenix. That was a huge call. That kind of like, I got a lot of them, but that kind of set it off right there. I think people, because they still play that call to this day, and that was Derrick at his highest point. Derrick was, Derrick was like a Halley's Comet, bro. I mean, no one had ever seen, a guard that size, that quick, with that explosive ability to take over games like he did. I mean, there's always been great guards, don't get me wrong. There's been great point guards. There's been guards who have been quick. But to have the total package, to be able to have the quickness, to be able to have the explosive ability and the strength of a 6'6", 6'7" guard at like 6'3", jumping over 7-footers, dunking on them. I mean, I was very fortunate, and I'll give a lot of credit to Derrick, because if Derrick wasn't an exciting player, who knows where Stacey King might be right now as far as the calls are concerned. He a lot of calls to call his game winner in Milwaukee, the Windy City Assassin, big time players make big time plays when he closed out a game at the Chicago Stadium. I mean, there's so many that I can go, but the Dragic is one I really like most.
I was gonna say, well, first of all, those are my two as well, and I was gonna bring up the step back and kiss myself against Milwaukee. That was a great one. But you're also, I think, I think you're also really good at like not necessarily the play calls, but just like the little catchphrases throughout the game. Like one of my favorites, does anybody know how to upload videos to Facebook? Do you have any of those kind of like, what's your favorite one of those smaller catchphrases? Like the old Stacey King soundboard where you could just like press the buttons and, you know, your voice would come up saying whatever. Do you have any of those like really special ones?
Well, they need to bring back the soundboard like that every day and upgrade. There's been a whole course since, but I think like the ones that I like when someone gets dunked on, you know, he didn't come for the massage, he came for the facial. I like when Bellinelli was here because of his Italian heritage. You know, I always say I like my meatball spicy when he hit the three. Of course, hot sauce is Chicago mainstay. You know, I can't tell. I wish I had a nickel for every time I'm outside or in the store. Someone yell, "Give me the hot sauce!" You know, I'm like, oh, you know, I do sell that now. You know, you can buy that online at GiveMeTheHotSauce.com.
And one also, Stacey, that I thought was brilliant that you did was the Thagic Johnson and the law offices of Sato and Young. I was absolutely brilliant, man. Seriously.
You know what? It's funny because like I've kind of gotten away from the nicknames per se because, you know, it's like the dunk contest. You know, when you win 2 dunk contests in a row, people expect you to just all of a sudden come up with something crazy every time. And nicknames are earned. You know, you got to earn it, man. Just because you do play doesn't mean you nickname. You know, and it's a funny story. Right? And you know, Jimmy Butler, his rookie year, you know, Jimmy was playing 8 minutes of freaking game. And so I gave everybody a nickname. Taj Gibson, D-Row, everybody had a nickname that year. And so Jimmy comes up to me on the plane. He said, "Hey, let me ask you a question." He said, "How come you haven't given me a nickname?" And I said, "Well, JB, you're only playing 8 minutes a game, man. You're not even getting in the game." And he said, "Well, man, could you give me a nickname if I get in the game and do something?" I go, "Yeah, all right, okay, I'm a nickname. So when next time you get in the game and you do something good, I'll give you a nickname." So he got in the game. I don't even remember his game. It was at Chicago. It was at the United Center, and it was garbage time. You know, he was playing like, you know, a 10-minute run, and he scored like 8 points. You know, he was getting, you know, just like he's doing now. You know, getting those tough buckets around the basket and one. So every time he scored, I go, "That's Jimmy G buckets." And I pause and I go, the G stands for gets buckets. And so that name was brought up. This is for Jimmy, pre-All-Star, most improved player, pre-superstar. This is the kid only getting 8 minutes a game. And to this day, he marketed that, you know, that's his line now. I hear ESPN, "Joe, Jimmy G buckets" or "Jimmy buckets" and all this stuff. And it's funny, you know, because I do hear sometimes people use some of my, like, you know, Derrick Rose when, you know, one of my big ones for Derrick was, you know, too big, too strong, too fast, too good. And I don't use that anymore, you know, because that was Derrick Rose's call. You know, don't use that anymore. People all used to get on me like, "You gave hot sauce to Kyle Korver." I said, no. I said, it sounded like it was Kyle Korver's because he was the only one that could shoot threes. But it was for anybody who shoots threes. He just happened to be the best at it.
You weren't ever using the hot sauce for the occasional Keith Bogans 3-pointer?
Boogie down Bogans.
Nah, you know what? It was kind of tough. It was kind of tough because that was the year. That's a team where you didn't really have a lot of good. You had Brewer, you know, guys who were good, you know, mid-range guys get around the basket. Like, you know, Chicago's finest brew was Brewer's call. And he played the baseline because he always great on the baseline. And I'd always say he plays the baseline better than John. Oh, she can destroy. Oh, that was one of my favorites too, you know. And then it was like they got rid of everybody. It's like, oh man. So I had to be creative every year.
Oh man.
Stacy, so you also are doing your own podcast now, which is called Give Me the Hot Sauce. Everybody check it out. They drop new episodes every Wednesday right here on YouTube. Bulls fans can't get enough content. Watch our stuff. Watch Stacy's stuff. You co-host it with our old colleague and our great pal, Mark Shanowski, who's also already made an appearance on this here show. What was the motivation to do that as someone who's already as busy as you are, to say, no, you know what? I also want to start a podcast and talk with former teammates, former other retired NBA vets, current NBA players, because I just can't get enough basketball talk. Was that basically the motivation behind it?
No, to be honest, it was COVID. When we were locked up in the house and we couldn't go anywhere. And I was like, the idea, like, man, I need to do a podcast, and I didn't really know how to start it. I didn't really know, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew my personality, it would be really good. It was mixing and matching the pieces. Mark Shanowski, as you guys know, is one of the best in Chicago when it comes to Chicago sports. He does a great job of, for me, he's a moderator on my show. He keeps the traffic flowing, and we have good banter. We did a post-game show together, and that's how I became really good friends with Mark, and he's the best in the business, and I'm glad he's part of the show. My friend Timmy Whispers, if you ever catch the show, everybody has a sidekick. You always got that one sidekick that the host makes fun of all the time. That's my boy Timmy Whispers. We've been friends since I came to Chicago. He doesn't say a lot, but when he does say something, man, it's like a grenade. He throws it on the table and it just explodes in everybody's face. So he's got some great one-liners. So he's good at that. And we poke fun at him. He just got back from a trip from New Orleans, and he's a ginger. He's got red hair. So he gets sunburned all the time. So we call his nickname Larry the Lobster, because he'd be looking like a lobster when he come in and do the show. And so he's really good to the show. And then, like I said, we try to keep it fresh. We try to, we do a lot of Bulls, Chicago sports, but we have different guests on. It's not all basketball. It's not all hoops. We just try to have fun with it, because there's so many podcasts out there that talks Bulls hoops and stuff like that. I kind of want to be different a little, do my own thing, movies. We have all kind of guests on. We've had UFC fighters. We've had porn stars. I mean, we've had all kind of stuff on our show, man. So it's a lot of fun doing it every week. And I think we're on 80 episodes now. So we're doing quite well.
Stacy, we love Mark Shanowski around here. Like, we love Mark Shanowski. What's one thing that you learned about Mark that you probably didn't know going into this show, but you've learned about him, like, doing this?
That Mark is a vampire. He never ages. Like, he still looks the same as he did 25 years ago.
The hair is amazing.
Yeah, he looks the same. I mean, he doesn't age, and it's amazing, because I think Mark's like in his, like, I don't think I shouldn't even be telling Mark's age. Just say he's up there, but he doesn't look his age. He looks a lot younger. But I think the one thing that Mark, that I would probably say about Mark is Mark has a great sense of humor. When he was at Comcast and he was one of the anchors, and then he did the Bulls pre and post game show, I don't think people really got a chance to see his humor. See, one thing about a podcast, and you guys know this too, because going from TV, you're kind of scripted. They want to tell you what you can and cannot say. Don't do this, don't do that. But on your podcast, you could pretty much let loose and have fun, like you be in a bar talking to people, but stuff. You can just relax a little bit. And Mark now is relaxed. I mean, he's telling jokes. I mean, people are probably looking at Mark like, is that the same Mark Shanowski? I mean, he's got a great sense of humor, and it's great that people get a chance to see him, that he's not so straight-laced.
Well, I hope you don't give these guys any more ammunition to make fun of me. I think they do that plenty. My favorite thing that I learned about you today, Stacy, was that you wanted to be a writer. I love that.
Yeah. I went to school for that, man. I mean, the crazy thing about it was, when I was at the University of Oklahoma, my journalism teacher would never let me cover easy sports. He always wanted us to step outside our comfort zone, and I could never cover sports. Nothing had to do with sports. So I had to go cover, school current events, city council meetings. I had to write about things that were, that I personally would never go do. And it made me focus on, I'm comfortable doing things that I'm uncomfortable about. And that it relates in everything you do, not just, doing, writing for the newspaper, school newspaper, doing something you're not comfortable, but with everything you do in life. If you're just satisfied being in one box, you never grow, and sometimes, you grow the box and you got to spread your wings a little bit and do something different. I mean, you guys know this more than anybody. I mean, when you guys jumped on Comcast and started doing TV, that was new. That was new for you guys. It took you a little adjustment to get used to the camera angles and, the red light and being comfortable talking in front of the camera. And you got out of your comfort zone. And by every show, you got better and better and better. And now here you are doing your own podcast, and it's the same thing. Because you did all the hard work. That was the hard work. Now it's easy. Now you guys know how to interview guys. You know how to talk. You know how to get your points across quick. Because people don't understand, man. It's a lot harder than it looks, but we make it look easy. But we had to go through a situation first before we can make it look easy.
Well said. Stace, we so appreciate your time, man. Real quick before we let you go, looking back towards this team that we all cover and we all love so much, assuming that 1A priority is signing Zach to a new contract, if you are in the shoes of AK and Mark Eversley, what is priority 1B when it comes to improving this roster and helping them take that next step and making a deeper playoff run next season?
Well, as you said, number one is Zach. We got to get Zach back in the fold. And after that, I think you got to get some knockdown shooters. You got to get some guys that can knock down some threes, keep defenses honest. I mean, try to find a J.J. Redick, Kyle Korver type of player. The good thing that's happened for the Bulls now is the Bulls with the front office, people know the Bulls are serious about winning. Chicago is a favorite destination for people. I don't care what people say. 5-6 years ago, the free agency didn't want to come here and all that other stuff. That's a bunch of BS. Chicago is one of the best cities in the country to come to hang out in, dinners, shows. It's a great, great city. And when you win here in Chicago, there's no place like it. Our fans are loyal. Bulls is not like New York or Philadelphia. They turn on you. They don't boo you. You know what? They ride or die with you. I remember this team was struggling, for 5 or 6 years. People were frustrated, but they kept coming to games. They kept showing up at the United Center. And yeah, they're frustrated. Yeah, they're upset. And, with Gar and Pax and all the things that came along with it. But at the end of the day, you know what? They still supported the team. Whether they won or lost, they were still there. And now that we're winning, there's levels to this. We're getting back to a situation now we're trying to build up. So they need to get some shooters, and they probably need to get a rim protector. Somebody can help in the, as a backup center that can block shots, rebound, help them defensively.
That's the man right there, ladies and gents. Bulls Nation, Stacey King, 3-time champ and Bulls broadcaster for all 82 games there, NBC Sports Chicago. Follow him on Twitter at Stacy21King and check out that Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast. New episodes dropping every Wednesday with him and our guy Mark and their guy Timmy Whispers. Stacy, thanks so much for coming on the pod, man. We appreciate it. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure, guys. We go back a long way when y'all was in the dungeon, so, I don't come on everybody's podcast, but, you guys are friends. So I'm glad you guys invited me. It was my pleasure. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
All right. Don't work too hard this summer, Stacy. Enjoy yourself. Don't mess up that summer like Scotty didn't want to. All right.
I'm going out there to get a tan, brother. I'll be
there.
Getting a tan.
Go. For Stacy, for our pal Will down there in Brazil, for Big Day, for our producer Joey, everyone here at our West Loop Studios in CHGO land, Matt saying thanks as always for tuning in, Bulls Nation. Until next time,
give me the hot sauce.
Give me the hot sauce. Be good.